Welcome to Living Well with Mary Lou Andre, a 30-minute monthly lifestyle program to help you live better on your own terms by being inspired by thought-provoking leaders who make the world a better place to live and thrive. I'm your host, Mary Lou Andre, and today I'm excited to introduce you to Jay Cady, who I fondly refer to as the accidental activist. After graduating from Syracuse University with a degree in communications, Jay set his sights on advertising, landing a job at a small advertising agency on Cape Cod. When he overheard a conversation about the International Fund for Animal Welfare, also located on Cape Cod, needing a writer, he was intrigued, applied, and landed his dream job. 35 years later, Jay is still using his unique skills and talents to help this stellar organization rescue animals, safeguard populations, and preserve endangered habitats. Please join me in welcoming Jay to share his remarkable professional journey on the front lines of saving some of the most vulnerable animals on our planet. Jay, welcome. I am so excited that you're here. Thank you for taking the time. I cannot wait to share your story with our viewers. So let's dive in with just setting up this remarkable story. And there is a reason why I call you the accidental activist, because when you graduated from Syracuse, 35 years ago, share with our audience where your head was, what your goals and aspirations. I know you had an opportunity to go to New York or San Francisco and you chose Boston. So bring us up to speed on how your professional journey started.
Sure. Yeah, I started at Syracuse with a degree in advertising, communications. Thought I was going to be an ad copywriter my whole life. And for some reason, I just didn't want to go to New York City where most of the ad business was. I liked Boston. And ended up getting a job with a small ad agency down on the Cape. And if at that time in my life, I remember it very clearly, if you'd said, what do you want to do with your life, kid? I said that I really wanted to do something that took advantage of my writing and persuasive skills and things like that. I wanted to travel because I'd never been anywhere, and I wanted to do something that really mattered. And initially I thought, I'll do that through advertising, who knows? And then I just happened to stumble onto IFAW when I was very, very young.
24, correct?
Yeah, a couple years out of college, a couple years under my belt. And they were looking for a writer and a campaigner. And that was the beginning of, like you say, an accidental journey.
Yeah, and that was on the Cape, which is awesome. And you had your first job was on the Cape, and then how you described it to me, you overheard a conversation and said, that's intriguing, I'm going to apply. So this show is really about being inspired, taking risks, really grabbing onto your dreams. And I think people need to hear that sometimes curiosity is a really good thing, because you really had little knowledge of this entire industry, which you're now an incredible expert in. So I love that. And you obviously checked all your boxes leaving college, being involved with something that would make the world a better place. Check. Traveling, we're going to get to some of your amazing travels, and then putting your skills to good use. And another thing that I love about your story, Jay, is that so many people think that they have to go do a traditional path when they get a degree. You had really good skills, communications, which were so applicable to so many things. So I love that you found out about this, it piqued your interest, you applied, you got the job, and then that's where the magic started happening. So you had three, based on our conversation, I know you've had more, but you had three, as you described it, incredible journeys within the organization prior to your role that you have now, which we'll get back to. But I found them fascinating, so I know our viewers will. Your first one was Save the Seals in Canada. So talk a little bit about that, and also what you did as part of your job, and then some of your observations during that period.
Sure. Yeah, I started that working on that campaign right from the beginning. Absolutely fell in love with it. It was the campaign to save, little white fur seals that our people were familiar with back from that time period. And through that campaign learned exactly what you're saying, how important it is to be a generalist and be flexible. I try to talk to younger people about that a lot, of you can have your area of specialization, but you don't know where life's going to take you. And the more that I was able to understand all the different aspects, because running a gigantic campaign like that included really everything. It was politics, it was advertising, it was, you know, individual persuasion, it was science, and bringing together a team of people with diverse backgrounds and getting them to understand. And the other part of it was learning to understand what the other people were looking at and how they were looking at the world, and have some sympathy for what was for us the opponent, and looking for that common ground.
Yeah. So how much of your time was spent up in Canada during those early years?
Oh, for the first 15 years of my career, every year in February we'd be up there for a month to 2 months. Combination of bringing people up to see what how wonderful these animals were, and then a big piece of it was exposing the abuses that were going on, and bringing that information out to the world to campaign for change. So 15 solid years of every single year.
And what was the conclusion of that effort?
We ultimately won the campaign, and there's still some hunting that goes on up in Canada, but the major abuses that were happening are gone. The threat to the population is gone. Like everything in the world, nothing's permanent, so you have to continue to monitor. But now up in Canada, we've been able to move on to much more positive engagement and conservation work, which is exciting to see.
Wow. Okay, so that was like the first 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 2 was something you're super proud of.
Yeah.
Brought it back to Cape Cod. Share with the audience what your second major accomplishment was at the organization.
Sure. What I'd say is that animal rescue has been around forever, but professionalizing it and getting it to the point where we really were able to show that individual wild animals could be put back into the wild, whether it was elephants or rhinos or tigers, or in my particular case, the one I'm most proud of is our work on Cape Cod, which is a stranding hotspot for whales and dolphins. And when I started out, all those animals died in the early 90s. If they landed on the beach, the assumption was that they couldn't be put back in the water. And over time, we built up an organization that first started out as a separate entity. I brought it in-house, and it's now the Marine Mammal Rescue Team. And we've gone from those early days where nothing survived to now, if a whale or a dolphin is, well, really, if a dolphin is alive on the beach when we get to it, about 76% of them survive.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, it really,
wow.
It really is a change, and it's moved on to where even single animals, and it's revolutionized the whole approach to that marine mammal rescue.
Yeah,
So,
and I know you share with me that that's one of your proudest accomplishments is that you guys were able to professionalize it and then bring it out to other organizations in the world. So incredible. So third chapter is the Room to Roam program in Africa.
Yeah.
Share a little bit more about that.
Well, that's really, as you know, over the years after we won other campaigns, the greatest threat now is for wildlife in Africa needing room to roam. These are migratory animals, and the days of just having a park, you know, keeping them sort of fenced in or something like that, it never really worked. And especially now with development, you've got to find much more innovative approaches to it. And so what we're working to do is, across Africa, come up with a combination of approaches that preserve their habitat. And sometimes that's within a park, sometimes it's within protected areas. A lot of it is just about making sure that the development that is happening around these areas is really sustainable, and you're not putting big developments right where wildlife needs to migrate. So it's a much bigger approach, and a lot of what I'm doing now is connecting.
Yeah, right.
And it's been interesting for me to move from, in the early days, very big, broad campaigning down to a lot more of the one-on-one interactions and bringing people who maybe have been very successful in their careers in many different ways, but have reached a point in their life where they're ready to give back. They're looking for something that's inspiring and fulfilling for them. And getting to meet with those people, and whether it's some of our own campaign work or somewhere else, I love finding those connections.
Okay. So that did bring me to kind of your next chapter in the organization is your spearheading fundraising. And what I really wanted to share with our viewers too, and what I've loved when you and I were speaking, is there's so many people looking for their next chapter. People that have been working and have, just like you had your communication skills, there's entrepreneurs out there, there's people that have been accountants and really understand spreadsheets. And I love what you said is that, you know, anyone listening or anyone that knows about the work that you do, it's just such a wow, and it's such a feel good when you see the results that you're able to get. So I know that part of your job is not only fundraising in the traditional sense, bringing money into the organization, but you also shared that connecting folks that have skills that are needed to further your mission are also welcome. So can you want to just share a couple of examples of folks that you've brought in that have those skill sets and the kind of impact that they're making outside of their wallet?
Sure. Yeah, and it's very true with our organization and across the whole nonprofit spectrum. We need more people with energy and experience, and we've had a number, a woman who had been a senior executive at Booz Allen Hamilton for many, many years, came along, was looking for, she said, you know, I want to get engaged, but I want to give, but I also want to participate. I want to get out and see what's going on. I want to help the organization grow. And she was a tremendous board chair for many years. She's still with us. Another one, an attorney here in Boston, who he talked similarly about how he'd been so busy with his career and he'd been tremendously successful. And we shared some about, he said, oh, I'm so envious of you for having been able to do it all along. And it's wonderful to see those kinds of people have this whole second
It's like a calling, like a
career.
calling, yeah.
It's a real calling.
Yeah.
And it's it's fulfilling for them, and it's exciting, and it's a benefit for us as an organization.
Yeah. How many employees, Jay?
About 200 that are full-time employees,
Yeah.
and then we have a large amount that's on contract or, you know,
For saving the
individual
whales
pieces.
and when things
Yeah.
like that happen?
And we're very diversified, like a global multinational. Most of our staff is in the field on the front lines, which we believe makes it much, much more effective, and also brings a lot more of the benefits into the individual countries where we're working.
Yeah. Where are you headquartered?
We're headquartered out of DC, but we've got offices, obviously a big office on the Cape, offices in London, in The Hague, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Zambia. We're in about 40 countries worldwide.
And so when people say that they want to really be involved, give an example of that, like this, the attorney in Boston and the professional woman that came in and said, I don't want to just give, I want to really be actively involved. Give us an example of what that looks like.
It's very, very individual.
Okay.
But what it really comes down to, it's like, conversations about what's their background, what's their expertise, and where is there potentially a fit in the organization. A lot of times it's helping networking or giving advice on how we can connect with other sectors. If they're in the medical community, a lot of times it gets as broad as people with medical connections being able to help out with the people in the communities around these areas, because Room to Roam is really, it's not just about the animals, it's about people, it's about having a holistic approach to preserving these amazing spaces that are so tremendously vulnerable. So it's really talking and just finding out what makes sense. What are they trying to achieve? Where's it a fit? And then just taking it one step at a time. They might be on a committee or something like that, looking for chances to bring people out into the field to get a sense of what's really going on, because there's
So
no
traveling
substitute.
to Africa,
Traveling to Africa,
to
things like
Canada,
that. Yeah.
to seeing things at the Cape. So
Yep.
super, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the big bucket list trips for many people, especially when they retire, is the African safari. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. There's no substitute for getting out and seeing it firsthand. We all have our own preconceptions of it, and that'll change. And the beauty of it too is that you can go on anything from a very, very high-end, luxurious safari to quite inexpensive. People talk about, oh, I could never go to Africa, and our point is, well, outside of the plane tickets, you're going to potentially cost about the same as a trip to Disney. You can do it.
Yeah.
So I'd say get out, and whether it's there or somewhere else, and when you're there, engage with the people as well.
Yeah. How many times have you been to Africa?
Ooh, I'd never really counted. Quite a few, maybe 15 or so, and I'm actually quite low in numbers compared to a lot of the people in the organization, because my expertise was more in the marine and things like that. But I absolutely love going there.
Yeah. Favorite, so one of your bucket list items when you graduated college was traveling. So you've been to, you told me how many places you've been to. Favorite place?
Favorite place?
In the world.
In the world. It would actually be going up on the ice to see the harp seals. And it's a little bit bittersweet because when I was engaged in that campaign, it was
30 years ago.
30 years ago. It was, but you could go up every single year and we could take people out on the ice. And it was like people talk about the Serengeti and seeing that migration. You were in the middle of 250,000 mother seals and their pups that had just given birth on the ice.
Incredible.
Absolutely remarkable. And it's not there anymore because of climate change. That firm, thick ice in the Gulf of St. Lawrence doesn't form up anymore.
When was the last time you were there?
2007, I believe.
2007, and
Yeah.
it was remarkably different.
Yeah, even then it was around 2002 or so. It's when we started to really see those climate change impacts, and people don't realize that it is real and it's happening, and it can happen that fast. I mean, I always dreamed about taking my children up to see that, and it's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore. What other changes have you seen?
I've seen a lot for the good. I'm very hopeful about next generations. The movement as a whole has matured tremendously, and I think one of the big things that we push that I'm really proud of is it's not just about animals or people, it's a holistic approach. And if you look at it that way, we talk about a better world for animals, people, and the place we call home. And it's true. If you approach it that way, which is now happening, you can really make a big change that lasts.
Yeah. So 3 words, Jay, that describe your career.
Innovating, I think.
That's
would be
one. Yeah.
Innovating, inspiring, and at this point probably introducing, because so much of this world, and one of the things that I think we all learn as we grow and mature in our careers, so much of it is about individual impact, and what a change people can make when you just make the right connections, bring them together.
Yeah. So I read your bio. You're being very modest. You've had tremendous accomplishments. You also have become very astute with politics, advocacy, public affairs, laws. So share one or two of those huge accomplishments, because they are impressive, Jay.
Well, I think the SEAL campaign was tremendous. Over the years, we've won huge marine sanctuaries. One that was a fluke, and again, we're talk about how you can have all the plans in the world, but stay open to how things can change and to new opportunities. During those SEAL campaign days, we ended up uncovering a very severe threat to another species of seals, hooded seals, and ended up with a fight that went right to the Canadian Supreme Court, and ultimately saved that species, which was highly endangered. So that's a really unusual one. And then also the work in disaster response over the years. I was able to be down in places like Hurricane Katrina, and obviously none of this is any one person, but being able to play a role in that whole aspect of where animal rescue is now seen as a very professional part of any humanitarian response. And we've moved things along quite a bit on that front.
Wow. Going back to the Cape for a moment, just because we're in Massachusetts,
Yep.
most of our viewers here, and you and I certainly have an affinity for that part of the world. Share what's going on right now, like walk us through the day in the life of an animal rescue person. Like what does that job entail?
They're amazing. And that's one of the exciting things is, something that I did early in my career, I'm no longer even remotely qualified to do, because we now have...
That happens, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, amazing. There's a whole team that they'll get a call about, an animal that might be injured, and we'll roll out we've got an animal ambulance we call it Moby because it's sort of big, but so they can roll out into the field and they have everything that they need and the veterinarians assess the animal on site, determine if it's going to, if it's going to be okay, and if it is, they'll load them up. They'll give them the right medications, and it's an ambulance, and we take them out to the tip of the Cape and release them back into the wild. And they do that rain or shine. Anybody who knows the Cape knows how muddy and horrible those conditions
Unpredictable.
can be, and unpredictable. But they have a huge success rate.
75%.
Yep. And then back to the shop, clean everything up, and they just do that constantly.
Are they on call every day? I mean, is it happening every day? What is the busiest season for them?
Busiest season is traditionally in the wintertime, but completely unpredictable. We had, one of the largest mass strandings in recorded history 2 years ago now, I think it was, and that wasn't during that time period. You just don't quite know when it's going to happen. But in the process of doing it, we're proving you can release those animals back into the wild, gaining tremendous scientific knowledge, because any of the animals that don't make it are necropsied and collecting the data, and that's shared with scientists all over the world. But there's a whole team of people, and if someone lives on the Cape in the right areas, we have a volunteer network that those people help tremendously. They're the ones that are usually the first line eyes and ears who hear about something happening.
Yeah, we're sharing all the contact information for this amazing organization. If somebody is interested in learning more or actually seeing some of the work that you do, what would your recommendation be? If they're on the Cape this summer, or is there places they can visit to get a little bit more insight on exactly the impact?
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, look at our website or Instagram, Facebook. There's tremendous amount of material that we put out there these days. Beyond that, I'd say send me an email. And let's talk, and they could, depending on the time, they could come by. We could show them around a little bit.
I'm signing up.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah. We've got a dolphin rescue center out in Orleans right now that's part of a very special project that isn't open to the public completely, but there's an educational area in the front of it. So it's a big organization, but we like to be one-on-one. So I'd say just reach out, express some interest, and let's talk.
Okay. So as we wrap up here, do you consider yourself an activist? I'm calling you the accidental activist, but do you consider yourself an activist?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what I think is the right kind of activism, which is have the courage of your convictions, don't be afraid to speak out, but be sensitive and intelligent and look at the big picture, because just fighting and shouting at one another, we're never going to get anywhere. So
Amen, Jay. Amen. So why don't you share your email address? We'll get that on the screen too if someone
Sure,
wants to reach out.
it's just AJCADY at ifaw.org. AJCady at ifaw.org.
Okay. And I always like to ask one additional question to all of our guests. What does living well mean to you, Jay?
I would say, first of all, having strong, successful relationship with family and friends, continuing to grow myself, and remaining open and always being looking for ways to improve, and then making a small difference in the world in some way. It sounds trite, but if you leave the world a better place, that's all any of us can really hope for.
It's a nice way to wake up every morning with an intention to making the world a better place. Jay, thank you so much. I
Thank
just
you for
loved
having
our
me.
time together, and I think anyone listening, you really give them a lot to think about, from career to how they can repurpose skills, to looking at the world with new eyes, to becoming their own activists, whatever that means to them. And I so appreciate you taking the time to come and share what I think is just an amazing story. Thank you so much.